Welcome, MarLynn FitzGerald.
Thank you.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
I'm so glad you're here with us to share a little bit about Orange Shirt Day, because originally you brought Orange Shirt Day to Fairfield United Church.
Our scripture passages from the Gospel of Matthew chapter 13. At about that same time, Jesus left the house and sat on the beach. In no time at all, a crowd gathered along the shoreline, forcing him to get into a boat. Using the boat as a pulpit, he addressed his congregation, telling stories. "What do you make of this? A farmer planted seed. As he scattered the seed, some of it fell on the road and birds ate it. Some fell on the gravel. It sprouted quickly, but didn't put down roots. So when the sun came up, it withered just as quickly. Some fell in the weeds. As it came up, it was strangled by the weeds. Some fell on good earth and produced a harvest beyond its wildest dreams." Are you listening to this? Really listening? The disciples came up and asked, "Why do you tell stories?" He replied, "You've been given insight into God's kingdom. You know how it works. Not everybody has this gift, this insight. It hasn't been given to them. Whenever someone has a ready heart for this, the insights and understandings flow freely. But if there is no readiness, no trace of receptivity, it soon disappears. That's why I tell stories, to create readiness, to nudge the people toward a welcome awakening. In their present state, they can stare till doomsday and not see it. Listen till they are blue in the face and not get it. I don't want Isaiah's forecast repeated all over again. You will indeed listen, but never understand. And you will indeed look, but never perceive. For this people's heart has grown dull, and their eyes are hard of hearing, and they have shut their eyes, so that they might not look with their eyes, and listen with their ears, and understand with their heart, and turn, and I would heal them. But you have God's blessed eyes, eyes that see, and God's blessed ears, ears that hear. A lot of people, prophets and humble believers among them, would have given anything to see what you are seeing, to hear what you are hearing, but never had the chance. Study this story of the farmer planting seed. When anyone hears news of the kingdom and doesn't take it in, it just remains on the surface. And so the evil one comes along and plucks it right out of the person's heart. This is the seed the farmer scatters on the road. The seed cast in gravel. This is the person who hears and instantly responds with enthusiasm, but there's no soil of character. And so when the emotions wear off and some difficulty arrives, there is nothing to show for it. The seed cast in the weeds is the person who hears the kingdom's news, but weeds of worry and illusions about getting more and wanting everything under the sun strangle what he has heard, and nothing comes of it. But the seed cast on good earth is the person who hears and takes in the news and then produces a harvest beyond his wildest dreams. This is a story of our faith.
I was thinking, where did I hear about orange shirts? And then I remembered you. And I remembered that you were going to Camosun College, and then you began to speak to me about it.
Mm-hmm.
So do you remember that moment?
I remember, I had to think back in years, and I remember that it was about 2014. One of the first courses I took was Indigenous health. That is the first place I learned about residential school. I was horrified, and I really knew nothing about it. I can honestly say I didn't know anything about it, and I was 43, right?
Yeah.
So that's when I started to really think about it. And we listened to the stories and were heartbroken. The energy there on Camosun land on Wasenic land was unbelievable. It was palpable. The chiefs that were in there, the power that was in there, the power of the stories. As I was looking by the speakers at the Young building, which is very colonial, and I just kept imagining what these children were taken to as I'm looking at this big brick, very Palladian building. You know, it was a really, really powerful representation of what they were living in.
We decided that you should share this with the congregation because it was early in September. You had just been to the ritual at Camosun, and so, you know, the shirts were just becoming available. We weren't really clear about how to plug in, but then I asked you to share your story at the announcement time during the on a Sunday service.
Yeah.
And do you remember sharing that?
No.
No?
And I have to say that when we're speaking, it feels like it was very sequential.
Yeah.
But we're talking years apart.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
I probably shared a little bit in 2016. I shared a little bit in 2017.
Yeah.
A little bit more in 2018.
Yeah.
And in 2019, I actually did a practicum with you.
Yes.
That was really, really a culmination of all my learning and how we could bring this to Fairfield United and how we could take those little steps to help with the bigger steps. We were talking about the ripple effect.
Yes.
And I don't remember the first time I shared, no, but I remember being really nervous sharing my findings. And gosh, that was 2 years ago now. I remember being up there shaking my little paper, trying to get it all out.
Yeah. And do you remember what the overall congregation's response was that first time that you shared that?
I remember it was awe. I think it was awe. I think just like with the mustard seed, how we were talking about how it can fall on, it's kind of when you're ready, you hear it.
Yes, yes.
And sometimes we hear it, we don't take it in. I think there was everything in that room.
Yes.
There were people that heard it and went, oh. And there were people, my words fell on everything in that room.
Yes.
People that were prepared to jump, people that were ahead of me, people that were not.
Yes.
So it was in awe though. I think most people were like, wow. I got some I didn't know or I didn't realize.
Yep.
And some people were, yep, I'm right there with you. I knew that, but I didn't know that.
Right.
So if you're hearing it for the first time from me, I'm glad it was in that space of comfort and family and friends and spiritual community, but it's still shocking. And we're still human and we still have our defenses and go, well, it wasn't me.
Yes.
That wasn't me. I didn't know. I didn't do anything. So, and I was there. I was there in 2014 when I first learned about residential school. I was searching for some way to escape my ownership of it.
Yes.
My colonial roots.
Yes. Yeah.
I had this justification going on and I wasn't ready then. So years apart, then I became ready. So that seed was even sown in me. And doing all the research and presenting a great presentation in my class didn't even make me hear it, really take it in. I was still trying to defend. Creator had designed it, so I was at the TRC proceedings in 2015. So 2014 I learned about it. 2015 I was listening to Justice Marie Sinclair talk about it. I cried so hard on live webcam. I was doing that choking crying.
Yes, the ugly cry.
The ugly cry. They actually had to send people over to help me.
She's on the camera. Yes.
Get her off now, quick, move her over. But I really needed, that was probably when it really dropped in, was 2015. So I guess that was when maybe that soil became fertile for me and that mustard seed started to grow. Interestingly about that parable is that mustard seeds grow in anything, really. But there's this crucial time where they need watering. And if they get that water, just in that crucial time of germination, they'll either thrive or they'll die. So not everybody is at that place, and it seemed to me like with these seeds, this germination of this mustard seed of the Orange Shirt Day, we had Phyllis Webstad. We had apologies from the United Church even. We had a member in an Alberta United Church who really kicked it off and demanded an apology from the United Church in 1981. So we're talking decades ago that this seed was planted. It was watered here and it was watered over there. And then Kairos watered it. Even Justin Trudeau's father watered it a little bit. So we're talking decades and decades of watering this seed. And the crazy thing about mustard seeds is once they take off, it's really hard to stop it. They grow 20 feet tall and 20 feet wide from this little tiny seed you can barely see on your hand. But they have to be watered at the right time. Yeah. But I'm just going to read from my practicum notes that I had made for the board, for council.
Excellent.
And there were a few interesting things. I printed this out this evening that I hadn't looked at in 2 years. But it was interesting because my first finding was settlers are at the beginning of the journey to healing the hurts caused by colonization. And that's so true. We're even seeing it now. Even though it's several years old for me and even older news for other people, there are still people just hearing about this, right?
Yes, very true.
And then I say, Fairfield United Church has planned an event for September to bring about more Indigenous education to provide an experience of Indigenous culture. So I think this is where the orange shirts and Fairfield United amalgamated.
Folks from Fairfield United Church listening team and the GVAT core group, that's the Greater Victoria Acting Together, joined with our friends and neighbors from Fairfield Gonzales Community Association Justice Team. We partnered with the organizers of Orange Shirt Day, Eddy Charlie, a residential school survivor, and Kristen Spray, his faithful assistant. Fairfield United Church offered a listening tent so that we could listen to our neighbors. And together we assisted with the sale of orange shirts and books about the original orange shirt by author and residential school survivor Phyllis Webstad. As a team and as a community, we stood by and stood alongside Eddy Charlie. They felt welcomed and supported. You can now find orange shirts at the Moss Street Market every Saturday between 10 and 2. Eddy Charlie would love to see you there so that you could purchase your orange shirt and hear the story of the impact of residential schools.
I remember I was sitting in the crowd and we were on those hay bales, right?
Yeah.
And I remember the gasps in the audience of 30-somethings with their children, whose children were running all over the place, and all of a sudden they grabbed them and sat them on their lap and had to listen. Yeah, it was incredible transformation for some people even in that moment. Some people got up and left too.
Yes.
Again, right?
Those seeds. The next day, on Sunday, during a Fairfield United Church gathering in the Gary Oak Room, we were pleased to welcome Eddy Charlie and Kristen Spray, who shared the ongoing impact of residential school on the survivors and the families of the First Nations community. In response, the community that gathered stood, honored, and respected Eddy Charlie and his stories.
So yes. I got hold of an instructor who knew Eddy well, personally, and Kristen as well. And she confirmed tobacco.
Yay.
But she also said something from our community, and that is where the knit prayer shawls came in.
Yes.
Yeah, that was very important to them. And it was very, very appreciated by Eddy and Kristen. That was really a heartfelt gift. Handmade from our community to theirs. And there's something about blankets in the indigenous community that's very, very important. Yeah, so it was like we were wrapping them in our love. Oh. And I hope they felt it. I think they did.
I think they did.
I hope so. That's my wish.
But I want to thank you, Mar, for bringing this gift, opened up the community. And you really did truly plant seeds in all of our hearts that has brought us to, you know, a new level of understanding in our community. And I am deeply, deeply grateful.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't think I say it enough.
From a mustard seed. That's amazing.
This wasn't an easy seed. It's hard news, and you did it with grace. And you shared how important it was. And I could see by your conviction and your deep understanding that it was important for us to do that. So I am deeply and forever grateful.
I'm grateful you allowed me that space. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Always.
And that's really the power of community, that we are formed and informed by people who walk in the world, and then they bring home, bring back to the community their insights, their wisdom, and we are forever changed by that. And those are the seeds that are planted. My dream always for Fairfield United Church is that it is an intergenerational community where we learn together and we love together and we laugh together. So, thank you.
Thank you.